today I'm going to be talking about expansion. And the path to wealth in early childhood as an owner is multiple centers. Right now, there's a trend in our industry for private equity and other large schools like Endeavor Schools and many others out there who are literally gobbling up as quickly as they can. Child Care Network is another one with between 200 and 300 locations for each of those companies. They are looking for multi-site operations that are successfully being run and that they can buy and grow and scale their large companies into enterprises that have hundreds of schools, right? And so your opportunity as a smaller operator is to scale and exit and sell your business whenever you're ready to one of these large scale operators potentially, or another smaller scale operator that wants to scale. And you can do that. And if you have between 5 and 10 schools, that will be a multi-million-dollar, 8-figure exit for you. Not 7-figure, but likely an 8-figure exit. And so that's the path to wealth in this business, guys. And so with that as a framework, I want to read you and introduce you to some people that have actually done this. The book is Rockstar Story. So let's dive into the book and find out more about how this dynamic duo of two women that are in my academy have expanded from, the story is, this year, they expanded from 3 schools to 9 schools in 1 year, and essentially did it in one growth deal. They acquired 6 schools in Pennsylvania in one deal. And it took, obviously a while to put the deal together, but who I'm speaking about, and you'll know if you're in our tribe who I'm speaking about, someone that I gave our award of the Owner of the Year to Miss Naderi Zambrano with Magic Memories, and her amazing executive director who has come up through the ranks, Miss Jennifer Slavin. And those two ladies are the dynamic duo, a team of owner and executive director that are incredible leaders and have taken their school to a place where I'm not even sure that they imagined that they could take it. So episode 35 of the podcast, if you're on Childcare Rockstar Radio and iTunes or Google Play, you're going to want to check out episode 35 with Jennifer Slavin, which she won my Director of the Year award last year. And she's an amazing woman who has helped her owner, Naderi, have an amazing culture, have a great collaborative culture of excellence, and they just keep feeding in to their teachers to try to make their company the best it can be in their marketplace, period, bar none, and just develop their brand and develop their vision for Magic Memories to grow and scale. And knowing that, they had big visions, they had big dreams. A year and a half ago, they didn't maybe know about this deal, probably didn't, to go from 3 locations to 9. And so what did they do and put in place to be able to do that? So I want to give you kind of a hit list. I want to actually give you specifics for how to scale. Once you have worked on your mindset and you have a positive mindset that you're constantly feeding that mindset, you have full enrollment at your existing locations or close to full, 90 to 95%, and you have great marketing in place with a great brand. You are working on your culture of excellence, and now it's time to scale. And if that's where you find yourself, congratulations. And let me give you, again, this hit list of things that you need to scale from 3 to 9. So what specifically did Naderi and Jennifer, her right-hand gal, do to make sure that they could have a successful acquisition of 6 schools at once? And one of the things that they did is work on their onboarding in terms of when they bring people in, what do they do for their hiring and onboarding? And so specifically in episode 35 of the podcast and chapter 30 of the book, I asked Jennifer Slavin, the executive director of this team, how do you onboard people? And she said, this is something that we were super sloppy in before we started in the academy and before we started working on the business. We were really sloppy in onboarding, and you might be too, and that's no shame in that. It's, do you have an onboarding process? So Jennifer says, I'd say we're always having to evolve in that, but we have so many great resources and input on how to do it. We're certainly not as tuned into it as this yet as some Academy members are. So they're feeling like maybe they're at a B and they can go to an A, which is great to understand what your gap is. Just that clarity is amazing. And we're excited that when we bring in new hires, we have our process. So my question to you is, do you have an onboarding process? What do you do in the first 30 days that a new hire is with you to make sure that they're inculcated into your culture, they're loving your core values, they're feeling your culture and your core values? And I talked about core values in the last class here. Just scroll down one below. I talked about the amazing core value framework that we use with Ann Rhodes. And she says, we have our checklist. We have our process, and we sit down. We start with their paperwork, make sure they have everything they need, start with the basics, and they do a 3 to 5 day training process, probably depending on how experienced they are as a teacher. They're not alone in the classroom or with children anywhere for at least 3 to 5 days. So they don't get thrown into a classroom, guys. This is not hiring a warm body who can fog a mirror and throwing them into a classroom, okay? And that's what I want to get you away from. So if you're going to scale, so you might be like, well, what does that have to do with expansion? Well, you have to have onboarding, hiring, and training processes in place. Maybe the most important piece that's going to free you up from your business and reduce pain in your business when you expand, and this is what people who are going to acquire you are looking to see if you have, by the way, is do you have this training, hiring, and onboarding system in place? So they get an array of experience and education to start, and we make sure we give them what they need to get them off flying on their own with no problems and issues, okay? So that's huge, is to have this onboarding process. And again, we talk about it in the book in more detail and on the podcast. So that's one thing that you need. And then another thing she talks about is she talks about hiring and what she does for, instead of doing a classroom audition with a new hire, a potential new hire, they actually have their existing teachers do a mini interview with the candidate so they can get more of their existing tribe, their existing culture, their teachers to input on that potential candidate and give them a great assessment with a process for what that candidate, how they score so we say, she says, our directors on site will do interviews and the candidate will come in. Our directors will meet with them for a small amount of time, maybe 30 minutes. Then they'll take them to the classroom they're interviewing for. And the teachers who is running the classroom of that same age group will come out and ask them their questions. And so they put a floater in during that time to ask the questions. If we don't have an extra person to cover ratio at the time, the director or our floater will step in so the teacher can do this. We have a list of 5 questions we allow the teachers to ask, and they're allowed to pick 2 to 5 of them to ask depending on the time and depending on how it goes. They just get to know them a little bit. We do this because a lot of times we hire someone, we're not the ones working alongside them. Okay, that might be a writer downer for you. So do you see what's happening here? One thing that I taught at the summit was all about decision making. I did a decision making session on stage at the summit, and it was drive decisions down as low as you can into your organization. Not low as in the people are low, as in on the org chart. Drive the decision down to the person who is living with that decision. Don't make the decision as the owner or the leader. If the teacher can manage and has responsibility for that decision, like classroom supplies to order or who to hire for her classroom, give her the empowerment, the system, and the process to follow so that she is empowered to make that decision, and she'll be much more likely to work with that person, train that person, love on that person, coach and mentor that person if she is responsible, or he, for making that hiring decision. This is a beautiful thing. This is what you need when it's time to expand. You need these processes in your company so that your culture can sustain itself without you as the owner. When people acquire your company, they're looking to see, is the owner replaceable? Has the owner scaled his or her business enough to the point where the owner could go on vacation for 3 or 6 months? That enables the company who wants to buy you, from which you are going to get a nice huge payday, and take that company and run with it because they have the confidence to know that the owner is not required to run the company and be the glue that holds the company together. Okay, so if you're the glue, and likely you are, if you have one small location, you're used to being the glue. A lot of times we get payoff, emotional payoff from being the glue. And I want you to think bigger than that. If you want to expand, you want to have this big vision, and you want that 8-figure payoff or even a 7-figure payoff when it's time to exit and have wealth and a legacy for your children and your grandchildren, which who doesn't want that? You want to start putting you've got to start putting these systems in place, like Jennifer's talking about in this book. So to finish this off, the teachers get to pick 2 to 5 questions that they're on a little list and ask the candidate, the hiring candidate, the questions. They get to know them a little bit. They do this because a lot of times we hire someone, we are not the ones working alongside them. We think they're great, but when they get into the classroom and the person they're working alongside will ask, why did you hire this person? How many times has that happened to you? So let your teachers help guide the hiring decision. Do you know how many headaches that will solve for you? We take their input in combination with our own, right? So they're not just totally in charge. It's a collaboration. We take their experience, their background, all of that, their background checks, and we decide what's the best candidate. Check their social media, ask them about culture, ask them about core value examples, all that stuff, and then make the hiring decision based on everybody's input. So it's a team decision. It's not just the owner or the executive director forcing that person down the throats of the people that are going to work with him or her. Amazing. What a huge shift just that one thing would make. So one other thing I want to share with you before I close out this class, and thank you for tuning in, is the things you need to scale your business. This is an expansion training. So what are the things you need in place? And I gave you one specific example, but taking it up one level, what do you need in place to expand your company to multiple sites? So the framework that I like, that many of our members are using, is from a book called Traction. And here's the book. And I like to introduce you to resources that we personally use. And I am using this system, the EOS system, in my company to scale my company. Okay. And we are scaling to 5 million and beyond. We started at just under 2. And this is phenomenal. Our company has grown almost 40% this year, 55% in the academy. And we're using the book Traction with this process. And again, I apologize that it's backwards, but this is the EOS process. And you can learn more at eosworldwide.com. I get nothing for promoting this, but on my podcast, I also feature our EOS implementer, Stuart Robertson, on the podcast. And you can just Google that or look him up. I don't know what episode he's on, but these are the things that you need in your business to scale it effectively. And you'll notice on this list, even though you can't read it because it's backwards, is people. So one of the things that I just read you about Jennifer Slavin's process with her owner Nadery is her people. It's our hiring process to collaboratively make a hiring decision with her teachers. That is a process too. So process and people are on this. These are the 6 things you need according to the Traction EOS model. They are vision, data, process, you might want to write these down, traction, issues, people, that's it. Vision, data, process, traction, issues, and people. And people may be the most important one, especially for a people business like a childcare center. Okay? So your business is in the center. You've got to work all 6 pieces of the wheel. This is the EOS Traction wheel. And if you want to just get started with it, get the book Traction. I have to give my shout out to my brother, Rob, who runs and owns a manufacturing company. And he's the one that introduced me to this book and this whole concept back in 2017. And it took me about a year to finally get my butt in gear and actually start implementing it. So I'm not perfect either. It's made a huge difference in our company, and it will for years too. I know that it will. So many people in our tribe have used it. So have a structure, have a process, have a way that you run meetings, have a process for hiring and onboarding those folks. And the more that you put those processes in place, identify the gaps in your team, your process, your marketing, your vision of your company. And the key to this whole thing is, again, Nadery and her executive director, Jennifer, who started as a director and has grown up the ranks with her, to have a second in command in place is a key component, because Nadery probably couldn't do it without Jennifer, or a really strong second in command. And so you want that somebody who is your executive director or your leading director that you're going to eventually promote to executive director or regional, who has your back, shares your vision, works hard to accomplish the same goals in a lock-key step with you. If you don't have that on your team, that's the person that you need to find and look for. You can groom them from within. There may be a teacher who wants to be a manager, who wants to be a leader, who has an amazing mindset, who's constantly reading mindset books and working on her leadership components. You might not even know she's on your team. So you might have a gem from within, and we would love that, to grow them from within. Or you can hire from outside and bring in that amazing second in command. But you need that as an owner to be able to show your potential buyer that you are not the one that's the glue that's the business that's holding the business together. So in order to not be the glue and to have freedom in your life and be able to take a 2-week vacation to Italy, you have to have that amazing second in command that can juggle all those balls for you and has your back. And Jennifer has Nadery's back like nobody I've ever seen. That enabled them to, again, grow from 3 to 9 locations. They closed the deal about 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago. They're working it. It's not perfect. They're working those 6 locations like mad to try to get them pulled into their brand and their vision, and just take that scaling up, that investment that they made to go from 3 to 9 and get it performing as well as it can, as fast as it can. And it's not an overnight process, but they just keep working the process, working the components of EOS, and identifying issues, solving them, working on their data, working on their scorecards, working on their accountability with each other, their culture, their vision, their core values, working on driving all of those new teachers up to core value behaviors that meet their brand and what their vision stands for. So that those pieces, I just spewed them out because I know them so well, because that's what we do in our company. That's the core to, if you feel like you're stuck, you can't get it going, you can't even imagine going from 3 to 9 locations, there's no way you have those things in place. I've given you a lot in this video to just get started, and don't freak out. Just get the book Traction and get a copy of my book, listen to the podcast, and just start feeding your brain and consistently working on developing those systems, working on your leadership, working on your vision. Share your vision. What is your vision? Do you have a vision? Share your vision with your team, develop those core values, and, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the process we have. Again, mindset, marketing, culture, and leadership, and expansion. And if you follow that, you will have success. We guarantee it. Okay? This has been Chris Murray. I hope that you have loved this training. I have loved giving it to you.